everyone! In today's video, I'm gonna be doing this watermelon inspired nail art. I'm gonna be encapsulating some nails and I'm also gonna use some colored acrylic. But before we start, make sure that you prep the nails very well. Since I'm using a plastic hand, all I can really do is file them. And then of course, I'm gonna get ready the form and I'm gonna do some cuts on the sides, just like always. And since I told you that we're gonna be doing some encapsulated nails, I'm gonna start by doing this very thin layer of crystal acrylic. This is gonna serve me as a base for me to apply everything that I want to encapsulate. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start applying some red acrylic. Since you guys know, I'm gonna be doing this watermelon nail art, so the colors that I'm gonna be using are red and green. In this first nail, I wanted the design to be diagonal. I don't know if you guys can tell in the video, but I'm also gonna be leaving a little space in the middle without adding any type of color, because here is where I'm gonna be adding the watermelons. And these are the fake watermelons that I'm gonna be using. I don't know if you guys remembered, but I actually showed you this more up and close in my whole video. It was one of my favorite things that I got, and I was so excited to finally do some designs with it. And I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this crystal acrylic that is gonna serve me as a glue to apply these watermelons. And now that I'm done with the design, I'm going to encapsulate this nail by using the same crystal acrylic. Here, what you want to make sure is that everything is well covered. Not just the watermelons, but also the colored acrylic. I know that it can sound a little bit weird, but trust me, the end result is gonna look much better. Everything is gonna look a lot more smooth. And this is how the first nail looks like. This second nail is going to be a little bit different because here we're gonna do this encapsulated French nail. So I'm gonna start by doing this very small almond shaped nail, and this is more so going to be our base. Here I'm gonna be using this very light pink. If you guys want to, you can also use some of the red or the green. And this is how it looks like. But I'm also going to file a little bit the sides because I want it to be as symmetrical as possible. And now that it's done, we can start building up this very thin layer with the crystal acrylic that is gonna serve us as a base for us to apply everything that we want to encapsulate. And now I'm gonna start applying the watermelons. The way I do that is that first, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm mixing some of this crystal acrylic with a little bit of glitter because I wanted the nail to have a little bit of shine. You guys don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I feel like the end result looks a lot better. What I recommend you to do is to add small bits in the places that you want to be adding some of these watermelons, because otherwise it's gonna dry too fast and you're not gonna have time to glue whatever you want to encapsulate. Now that I applied everything, I'm gonna finish up this nail by encapsulating, and this is gonna be exactly like the first nail. The only difference is that we don't need to encapsulate the entire nail, just the bottom half where we applied the watermelons. And of course, remember to always apply some pressure on the sides because that's gonna make your nail look a lot more natural and have more of this C shape. Now moving on to the third nail, here is gonna look more like the first one. We're not gonna be doing more French nails. So what we have to do is that we have to create this very thin layer in the entire nail, just exactly like we done in the beginning. Here, I'm gonna start by applying all the watermelons that I want to encapsulate, but this time I'm gonna do it on the upper half of the nail because what I wanna do with this third nail is this type of ombre with the watermelons as well as some red acrylic. But you guys will see that in just a little bit. Here, I'm gonna be applying everything just like I've been telling you all throughout this video. But here, what you want to make sure is that the beads are not too dry because otherwise they are not going to glue very well. When you guys are doing this step, make sure that everything is very flat because otherwise the nail is going to look too chunky once you start encapsulating. And now I'm going to start applying some of this red acrylic. Remember that here I'm going to try to do this ombre that is going to go upwards. To be honest, I didn't really like these colored acrylics because they were very pigmented, so the entire nail would get dirty and then it was really hard to clean up. But anyways, a little tip that I have for you guys when you guys are doing ombre is to make sure that you put some of the acrylic on top of the watermelons. I think that it looks a lot more realistic this way. And of course, once you guys are done with that, make sure to encapsulate everything, including the colored acrylic. Once the nail is dried enough, make sure that you apply some pressure on the sides. In that way, it's gonna look a lot more natural. And for the last nail, we're also going to start by creating this very thin layer with the crystal acrylic. Here, I'm also going to try to do this type of ombre, but it's going to be a little bit different because I'm gonna use the red acrylic as well as the green one. When I do this, I add the first bead between the natural nail and then I create the shape that I want. And then I go with the last bead and I end up covering up the entire nail. And just like I told you before, I'm gonna be using the red acrylic. First, I'm gonna add it in the middle of the nail because I don't want it to cover up too much. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start by adding the green one. And just like I told you before, I don't really love how these colored acrylic look like because I think that the way they mix, it kind of looks a tiny bit dirty. But anyways, I'm gonna try to find new ones so I can show you more designs. And then once I'm done with the green one, I'm gonna end up adding some of this watermelon on the bottom of the nail. A little tip that I have for you guys is to add some of these watermelons on top of the red acrylic, because in that way it kind of looks more natural. And of course, now that we have everything on the nail, we're gonna end up by encapsulating it. Here, what you want to make sure is that the crystal acrylic bits are not too dry because otherwise it's gonna be a little bit hard for you to cover everything. And of course, we're gonna add some pressure on the sides so it can look more natural. And here's how the encapsulated nails look like. But you guys know that filing is so important. So the way I like to do this is that first I start filing the sides and I end up perfecting the shape that I created. And since these are square nails, I'm gonna put the file completely straight because I want the sides of the nail to be as straight as possible. And this is how the nails look like after filing the sides, but we're not completely done yet because we also have to file the surface. And to do this, I'm gonna use my e-file because I think it's way easier to do it this way. If you guys don't want to, you can also use a regular file, that's gonna work as well. But here, what you wanna make sure is that you file down this nail. Make sure that you don't touch the watermelons too much because if you end up filing the nail way too much, maybe some of the things that we added to encapsulate the nails can fall off. And this is how the file nails look like. Like you guys can tell, they're a lot thinner. And now we can do my favorite part of doing encapsulated nails, which is adding some top coat. But before we do this, make sure to clean off all of the dust, because otherwise the top coat can get a little bit dirty. The great thing about adding top coat is that it's not only going to add a really pretty shine, but it's also going to allow to see everything that we encapsulated. And honestly, I love how these watermelons end up looking. I think that they look so pretty, especially with some of that sparkles that we added. I think that it adds a really pretty shine. And I didn't mention this, but this top coat also has to be cured. But we're not gonna cure it yet because we're gonna be adding some stones. I'm gonna be telling you a little bit more in depth how I'm gonna do this, but I'm only gonna do it on the second nail where we did the French design. And like you guys can tell, I'm gonna add the bigger stones in the middle of the nail, and then I'm gonna finish up with the smaller ones on the side. I think that adding the stones this way makes the design look better. And of course, we're gonna cure everything for about 60 seconds. The good thing about this top coat is that it's not only gonna add this really pretty shine, but it's also gonna serve us as glue for the stones. And this is how the final design looks like. I know that's a little bit more complicated than usual, but honestly, I think that for the summer, it's gonna look so good. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe and like it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.